Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another all-new X's for Show, your premier media response show. As always, I'm Nico, and you can catch the show on all its many spooky soch at X's for Show. I'm just going to make it X's for Soch. As for me, you can check me out at Nico Action. That's Nicoation.
No, let's throw it to your partner in the same frame. Let's be efficient about this.
Well, who, me? Hi, everyone, it's me, Jonah. I'm over here now. You can find me over at any social at Peak Jonah. That's Peak.
Look over there.
Over there.
And I'm TK. You can find me on all of the social medias at TK Elemental.
And that makes me your producer, Kevo, and you can find me on the Soch. I'm going with it at Kevo Really. That's Kevoreally. Are we here today, gents? Well, I think we're here to talk as our dimensional travel might suggest. We're here to talk about space.
Oh, and all the magic of space. You know, it is always crazy when we have a week where we don't do everything. So, like, I find myself, if we don't do comics one week, like hankering for a comic talk the next week. And, you know, we didn't do a TV thing like normal last week. We had that huge marathon. And, you know, that's 72 hours of content for you guys to munch on. So we definitely wanted to give you guys a chance to catch up. And now we're back, and we got lots of TV to talk about. The Goodgy, the Badgy, the Logicy.
You know, I knew that you were going to fixate on them, so I made sure to get screen caps of each of them, because I knew you would want. That'll have to be one of our big questions for the episode, is which badge are you? Do we have a question already?
Oh, we do.
Check our script. Oh, we do.
What major franchise would you want to see get lower dexified?
Oh, okay.
Show would you want to see get that sort of loving, hey, we see your sci-fi and we validate it? You know, I think for me, if I think something needs to remember how to laugh a little bit, it's going to be my precious Alien. Alien, it could use a giggle. Hold on.
Oh, no, you just had them out. You just took them out last week. I guess it's their season.
It's evergreen content.
Stop saying that.
But yeah, it could laugh a little bit more on the Nostromo. You know, oh my God, the USS Pagliacci. And it's like a funny alien crew.
No, Doctor. I'm Pagliacci.
No, I'm the Xenomorph.
And I'm his friend Jesus.
There you go. It's already Futurama. So
yeah, Futurama
anyway.
is the humorous part of the Alien universe.
So anybody else? What would you guys want to see get lower dexified?
Do you have one yet?
No, give me a second.
Oh, I need a second. You know what we almost got that was sort of this was, remember when we almost had the Buffy animated series?
Yeah.
I really always wanted that.
Well, that's very funny because I just finished listening to Slayers today.
Okay.
Which is not that, but I think Buffy is a really good one. I think for all of the humor of Buffy, a lot of it still needed that thing of like, I think some of their best moments were when they could laugh a little bit at Buffy and Angel, but I feel like a consistent crew who was doing that would have been really funny. I also think part of it is how great Mariner, Boimler, and the Beta team are. Like, if it were Jonathan, Andrew, and Warren, that wouldn't have been funny. Like, that wouldn't have been good. You need, like, the earnestly great but garbage characters. I like Buffy. That's a good one.
I also just want to throw out there, I have a backup one, and that's, I want to see the ancient engineers that crawl out of their primordial cave to fix it every time one of the Dinozords breaks.
Oh, yeah, Power Rangers is another good one that I thought would be interesting.
I know for six.
So
ay.
Yeah.
Jonah, what about you? I want to go last.
Are you still with us? Are you thinking about this, or are you thinking about Candy?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I'm a little bit rock and roll, a little
dyslexic.
A little dyslexic. You know, I lost my flip flops the other day, and I got that going for me. This is a very particularly tough question because I think it poses this kind of idea of like, okay, what is something that I think should deserve something goofy, lighthearted, where you kind of see the inner workings. I don't know. What is a world?
Well,
one?
we have one in the chat. Tom has a suggestion, and I am loving it. X-Men. Going into what just happened with the fall of X, I need comedy as I can't cope with it. And you know what? Everybody wants their X-Men the animated series and their X-Men 97, but the thing that we quote the most is the floating hands animation of the X-Men. So I definitely agree. X-Men as an entity is something that could really use this lower deck style of comedy. Excellent answer.
I love that answer. I was trying really hard not to be super obvious and say X-Men,
On brand.
because the other thing is like it would be like Damage Control, which I have like raged against the fact that they're not doing, while at the same time seeing that DC did their version and it was garbage, even though they had the best crew possible. It wasn't even garbage. They just have no exit strategies for anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like Marvel's Damage Control can't happen in the next 7 years, which is great because I think this is their make or break time. Within these next few years, we will know if they've got it back again or if this is just a race to the lowest common denominator with the highest, financial dividends.
Right.
So I am going to say... I don't want to say Star Wars, because that just feels like, Star Trek.
Coke and Pepsi, yeah.
All right, I have two as well. I want to go in the reverse direction and see a serious thing in the Venture Brothers universe.
Oh.
The Venture Brothers is... What's that?
You're flipping the script.
I'm flipping the script. Venture Brothers is entirely what if superheroes were funny, and boy adventurers and all that stuff. So let's take that model and let's do something super serious in that. And then for humor, Westworld.
Okay.
Can it be like Southwest World?
Yeah, like you'd pick like a garbage, like it would be like Venice Beach World or something, just absolutely Floribama Shore World.
Vancouver.
Oh, okay. I have my answer.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Give me the non-serious comedic version of the Flanagan verse.
I thought about that too. Yes.
give me. Oh, the bent neck lady.
So wait, the pratfalls of the House of Usher.
Yeah.
Just the people who are like not scared of the ghosts, but they're like, "Oh, girl, you are serving with that wet hair look."
Love the hat,
and the house just can't digest them.
Love your haunt. Hope you win.
I especially love that perspective of the completely unaffected. Another one that Tasty Cake just put in the chat is X-Files. And I think that's another one where if you had it be a crew of people who, unlike it being Mulder and Scully, who were constantly fighting over it, and it was just people who accepted it, and this is their job, and we just have to deal with these aliens, and this is there's so much paperwork. You don't even know.
FBI grunts who have to go do cleanup after, the Lamprey man.
Well, I'm going to pitch one more for Jonah, and that's going to be, I'm going to call it Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Locker Room. And it's just all the cards hanging out on the bench waiting to be summoned.
Oh, okay, wait. I actually have an actual serious answer that I think would be good.
Oh, no, yours is funny. Mine's good.
Don't listen to him. Go, Jonah.
Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
I love the all the the inner makings and the mechanisms behind Cabin in the Woods of like what is supposed to be going on and how the puppets are, the strings are being pulled. Give me the comedy of that. Show me all the other years that they had to do it.
Okay. There was just some show on Netflix that was kind of like that. It was basically like a government agency that was the people who were behind the scenes, the ones who were actually like sort of Men in Black, but for conspiracy theories instead of just aliens. I forget what it was called, but it had like Christian Bale. No, not Christian Bale. The other one, the one we like, Christian Slater, and someone else, and it died. So,
well, I was gonna guess Christian Borle. So
that would be a very interesting one as well. He's got a very unique voice.
So I think it's that time. It's time to talk the
That
shows,
time.
I think. And I cannot wait to dive in on some Lower Decks. This season of Lower Decks. Oh man, I meant to say yes, Haunty. Forgot to say that one. This season of Lower Decks is just really the thing that I think sets this one apart from per se the first few seasons is this false attempt at an ongoing narrative is not really doing it for me. I really want to know what's going on with this ship situation, but it doesn't feel like they're trying to pull it into focus anytime soon. That said, the seriousness and the gravity of elevating this show to the level of other Star Treks, giving it this, even if I don't think it's working, ongoing narrative, or it's things like the crossover episode with Strange New Worlds. It's kind of making all of the silly moments more special, more magical. It's making them seem more important, sort of by reminding us that the seriousness is there too. And I think they're handling it in a really strong way. They're not focusing too much on it, and they're managing to balance it.
I agree. I agree that they are managing to balance it. I actually like this storyline. I actually maybe feel entirely the opposite of you in that, like, I could even deal with more of it.
That's what I'm saying. They are not giving us enough of it. It's not actually an ongoing storyline. It's just something that it shows up.
Yeah.
I love it, but it is not actually an ongoing
And I think this is something we've discussed before, given how little they do this, that they are making this transition from entirely episodic to one kind of serial through line. It's at the very least to me, it says that they are trying to see what the long-term prospects of the show are. Because I think we don't know a lot about a Star Trek kind of making that transition. I love that they're 10 episode seasons. It makes it feel a little bit more special. I was thinking the other day, or I was thinking when I was watching the Caves episode, like if there were 20, I feel like the quality would suffer, and I would rather have 10 great ones. I suspect we will get a bunch more next week, and then it will basically be the entire subject of episode 10 with a cliffhanger taking us into season 5.
Right. We know we have a 5, right? That's the one that's confirmed.
Yes, it is in production currently. Correct.
And I think that's a good start for a show that maybe might not work if it got entirely Picard-esque, where every episode leads into the next one.
And there's all of these weird pans across vineyards in France.
Well, I mean, we've got to go back to Chateau Boimler.
Yes, and that's the thing about this show too, is even when we haven't quite reached 40 episodes yet, there's so many things that, like, we got so much of an amazing info dump when it came to Tendy's family this year. There were so many things that we didn't know that we still don't know about her backstory. Haha, yes. Ariel Winter being the voice of the sister of the mistress of the winter constellations was everything we could have wanted and more. Plus, Ariel Winter just has a great voice. She was Sophia the First. I just remembered that. So that's funny. But like you said, Chateau Boimler, we know almost nothing about Rutherford's family. I don't even know if his family is still alive. And it's almost better that we aren't being given too much, because then there is still so much potential. It has so many things that it could explore to hopefully reach like 100 episodes.
Oh, absolutely. And to your credit, to the point that you're making, I am appreciative that there is a lot more focus on Tendy's family, because the Orions themselves don't have a ton of history to them, to my knowledge. And it makes it a lot more fascinating that they can kind of do whatever they want, in the sense of
documented canon of their culture. Yes, we've seen Orions a lot, but like we said on this episode, this is the first time we saw their planet. So yeah, we don't know a lot about them for as much as we see them a lot. Correct.
And I really appreciate that, because it's a lot of filling in gaps, and it's really cool that they're building upon this character that has an interesting home world and this interesting culture that they've never built upon before. But I do I hear the sentiment of this ongoing narrative that they're trying to establish. I think for me, I needed them to be talking about it just a little bit more. We have this mystery of that is later revealed that this ship's not destroying these ships, but stealing them. But it doesn't seem like anybody's taking it seriously. If they are, they're not showing us. It just feels weird that we're given this mystery, and it's, you know, the opening for multiple episodes in a row, multiple scenes, and then Starfleet just kind of doesn't care.
No, that's Starfleet.
Yeah, it's not urgent, is it?
It's not Borg.
Well, I guess because a Starfleet ship, it didn't happen to a Starfleet ship, so why would they care about it right now? I guess
That's it. That's where it's at.
It just feels a little weird. I'd rather they give just a little bit more information all throughout each of the episodes, as opposed to just the dump of information of it. I feel like there's a way to just give us drip feed it just a little more in a way that makes it feel compelling, because why do we as the audience care about this mystery? We have no stakes in this.
And, you know, it's to that extent, I really love your point. When we're talking about the fact that it's not always Federation ships, one of the things that really stands out to me is, why are you killing off a bunch of people? It's to make us care about the fate of the universe. We get these moments that kind of humanize it, even if they're implying that it's, mutiny causes this or mutiny draws this sort of thing. There's still a humanizing factor. Not everybody is looking to mutiny, and maybe some of the mutinies are to save people, are to create better situations. We don't know. But the idea that they were able to do it with what was essentially a non-speaking a ship. One of the things that this series is able to do is it's able to really lean into the identity that the show is providing each ship. While we think of the Cerritos as lower decks, every ship the Cerritos has come in contact with, every planet, has had a unique vibe. That's something that I think draws on a lot of the children's animation that we grew up on, that I think a lot of these creators also probably got to enjoy. But it's a technique that I think is part of what keeps Lower Decks very different than other Star Treks. On other Star Treks, they can't afford to show us everybody on a ship that gets blown up in the distance, but they can animate it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is when we go beyond the idea that Lower Decks is really fun and entertaining, and just funny and like a breath of fresh air in Star Trek, the utility of being able to say all of these species that we gave you a little taste of, that we introduced for one episode with, a spicy mechanic, like they can only speak in poetry. Now we've got, the Vendorans were such a funny, that's what a stupid get. And that's not even like that's not even addressing the problem we're talking about. So I don't know why I'm bringing them up, because they're just an animated series, a Star Trek animated series thing. But it's so funny. Because it was stupid on Star Trek the Animated Series, and it's stupid here in the flashback, but then the fact that the big reveal of this episode is that it was the Vendorans all along is just such a good one. And Picard's not going to give us Vendorans, and if they did, they would look terrible. They would look really CGI'd, but they're canon. They exist. What are they doing all day? The idea, you could put them in an episode of The Next Generation, and it would be exactly what happened. Like, they would be trying to do a morality tale. The language around what happened would just be more serious. Is
this what you're trying to discover? How we can be kinder to one another?
Yeah, it would just be more.
Isn't that the Picard episode with Ashley Judd and he thinks she's his wife or something?
Yes. Yep. That's
not
another
Ashley Judd, but someone, and it's all dumb. It's all
Ashley Judd. Oh no, Ashley Judd's one of the kids that hangs out with Wesley.
She was with Wesley.
Yeah.
Wesley.
Mike Judge, right?
Let's say Winona Judd. It's fine.
Yeah. Reba.
Winona Ryder.
So, I think that we can do both, showing exactly as you said, like showing a lot of the interior lives of the species that we've seen and really only gotten budget appropriate glimpses, That is one huge utility of the show. When we talked about the Tendi episode, one of the things I was saying is like, I don't think you could depict the level of wealth we're supposed to believe the Orions engage in on screen. I don't think it would ever look good. I think it would always look hammy, and it would look like Canada.
You're expecting John Larroquette to come through into the scene and say, "The rich family vault."
Exactly. But it works here. It complements everything we know about the Orions all the way up through Discovery. And now we have this really big look. But then the other thing with something like the Vendorans is we do get a chance to see aliens do stuff and laugh at it rather than be like the very serious Vendorans who have so much power and can manipulate everything at its most basic level. That's all true. And, you know, if someday they want to use it for Star Trek Legacy, great. But I'm glad that the story that I will reference first is one that makes me giggle a little, because Star Trek is inherently giggle worthy.
And I think.
And
Oh, please
oh,
go.
God.
What I was gonna say is I think that speaks to the magic of getting to use animation, because it's a lot cheaper as opposed to having to put people in prosthetics, having to pay for CGI,
Yes.
which can get very expensive. And then it's like, oh, it doesn't look exactly right, so you have to redo it, and that can take a lot more time as opposed to animation. You know, Kevo pointed out to me it's partially the reason why Dr. Ta'ana can be a Cation is because you don't have to put somebody in cat makeup and a cat costume or in CGI every single episode.
And I think an episode that really, really, really spoke to the blending of both doing something that people can take seriously and doing something silly, even specifically, was the Ferenginar episode. I think this episode was such a out of the park for this season in terms of bringing back legacy characters in a way that really respects who they are and their characterization and the journey they went through when they were portrayed on screen previously. And also, like, a lot of silly fun stuff. The first thing that they do when they meet this Federation delegate is present him with a bust of himself. And here's the receipt for this bust of you. We go down and see Ferenginar, and there's all of these. There's a youth casino.
Yep.
Uncle
Quark's.
Yep.
Loeb's Lodge. That's basically
Maximum,
like Pussy Dick Lodge. I can't even.
Maximum Loeb Max Rub Dungeon. Like, all of these things. The list of things Boimler was supposed to do includes visit the Museum of Bribery, visit the Ferengi Hall of Fame gift shop, parentheses, Hall of Fame coming soon.
So they have the gift shop ready.
Yes, exactly. And then I had to get as many screen caps as I could of Quark's Federation Bar and Grill. This was wonderful.
It just
Thank
looks like
you.
Epcot. I love it.
And I mean, the thing is, like, this is over the top for what I think they would propose Ferenginar would be in live action, of course. But now that I see this, after all that they have talked about Ferenginar and Ferengi culture, this to me, and laughing with it, makes more sense than going there in live action and seeing just casinos. The bit about the receipt would not work in a show that was even having a funny moment, but a serious show. But it feels more accurate to what you would experience, given how over the top Star Trek allowed itself to become about people like the Ferengi, that they would, in the midst of genocide, talk about the rules of engage, or what is it? The
rules of acquisition.
Acquisition. Sorry, I kept saying engagement.
Pardon.
That
The
there,
eighth rule of acquisition is always charge someone for asking what it is. The rules
of acquisition.
The fact that it would come up, and I appreciated the heart of Deep Space Nine with its Ferengi crew members, but there really were times where you're talking about drug addicted aliens. The rules of acquisition are insane to be quoting here, but it's Star Trek. So, okay, we've gone there. This, I think, is the only way to somehow right the ship and actually make the stuff where they were trying to be serious seem right. because this lets us take it to a level that's just a little bit too far, but also maybe not. And we're kind of going to make the adjustments in our head to have something that works overall. Youth Casino works even though it's funny. Like they should have that.
Yeah.
And it's the way they play it all into this big joke of, yes, well, I meant to pull a fast one on you. Oh, terrific. Sign up. Like, this whole idea that it's a gambit from step one. Like, so many of these episodes have been with the morality play of caves or the Ferengi episode. We're seeing a lot of things where the Cerritos are offered a moral or like sort of emotional imperative and are being given an opportunity to rise above. I think that's something that's so true to Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek that perhaps something like Enterprise kind of botched, where the characters all kind of want to argue. That's in a lot of ways a lot more an animated series of Star Trek than this is. So, just thinking about shows that are a little bit more in line. Theme song alone. So...
You don't have faith of the heart, do you?
I don't. You cannot, Diane Warren, trick me into accepting a Star Trek theme song.
Diane Wiest.
You know what can trick you, though? Changing your red light to a blue one.
Okay, so
was this just your favorite episode? This was literally all of the things you love about Lower Decks in one episode.
Are you talking to him or me?
Me.
I mean, anyone here, honestly. Yeah. This was all of my boys' favorite things.
Robots or AI becoming real angry at the universe and acting out. People being able to designate who they are by the color energy they choose to project. Splitting a person into... like, this is just Michael Douglas's Multiplicity without any of the creepy stuff that they did to poor... oh, God, Andy McDowell. Right?
Or no, not Michael Douglas, Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton and Raven from Teen Titans. Thank you. I did not mean Michael Douglas.
Yes, thank you, Raven Simonier, for your service to this country.
We have fed Michael Douglas to Catherine Zeta-Jones' eternal youth. So, oh gosh, when they showed us
biblically accurate angel.
When they showed us the Badgie energy flying through the universe, this episode was such a unique choice for so many reasons. If for no other reason, things like giving the giant koala that watches over all of us, giving this whole idea a little bit more credence. It was kind of shocking. Now, I love this because I think this is really in line with Q and so much of the magic of reality that they love to play into every version of Star Trek. But to see it here animated without that limitation of budget, I was afraid it would take me out of the seriousness. But instead, Jack McBrayer, of all people, really delved into a really kind performance where he was like, but why would I do that now? Now that I understand all of existence, why would I destroy anything? Like, it was really interesting to see what could have been just an over-the-top, silly performance given gravitas on the stage that somebody like Jean-Luc would look for from a Star Trek story.
This one also in particular, the whole energy wave going through the entire galaxy was great, but I think specifically using DS9 was so smart because it was an asset they already had. It's like they said to themselves, what do we have that we can use in this that would create a great moment? It's just the right touch of, oh, we know that because it is out there in the galaxy somewhere. And we just told you this swept the whole galaxy. So it makes sense to see things that we know. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that is one of those things that Lower Decks really does well because they can animate anything, show us the stuff that we know and love and recognize being affected by the Lower Decks events, and it just kind of ties our hearts into it a little bit more.
And, when you see a character like Agamis or Peanut Hamper show back up, one of the things that I think it kind of reminds us is that Lower Decks actually does have its own canosity.
Yeah.
It's not just, the cute things that pop back up. It's these sort of ongoing elements. I had made a comment that I felt like perhaps the projected, we're destroying ships that are committing mutiny storyline isn't really forming its own story yet. But actually, if you think about it, things like Peanut Hamper and Agamus running in the background for multiple seasons do that sort of groundwork for this idea this season. And I think it's just, a very interesting thing that I didn't even realize until we were discussing it. But, the nature of Lower Decks has always been very canon heavy, even for a show that the creators themselves say we're not too worried about canon.
I mean, I think because it is coming from the angle of what's fun and semi-beloved, not what is deeply entrenched and established that we must treat as sacred. Which, coming from comics, I think we just see so much where it's, it's not just that Storm once had this adventure worth referencing. It is, if you're going to talk about Storm at this place, you better reference this adventure. And if she reacts to it in a way that is different from how I think she should react to it, you don't respect the canon. And this is really just like, these two robots showed up before. We should bring them back. And I love that in this case, part of it is you think we're getting another episode of them as antagonists that are pulling one over on the crew. And in fact, immediately we establish that the crew knows exactly what they're planning to do and is just kind of waiting them out. Which is
and
just
that they themselves kind of are like, is this really what we want with our lives anymore? The poster for season 4, I think I even have it on my teen girl fangirl board. Yeah, this is the pyramid from this episode that we just saw that Agamus built. And then he sort of gives it up because he's like, I would rather be with my friend. And it's one of the many ways in which Lower Decks really captures the spirit of Star Trek and the Federation that I love so much. In the Caves episode, when we see Mariner's bit with Delta Shift, and, they're antagonizing each other, but the minute that Lieutenant J.G. Mariner gives them an order, they immediately say, on it, because they are Starfleet, and they are here on a mission. And I really, really, really love when Star Trek projects stay true to that mantra and that theme of coming together rather than letting these things tear us apart.
Well, and speaking of things that got torn apart, something that they showed really well in the animation here was the aging and de-aging fields, because it would have been every time we looked away and looked back, Riker had more makeup caked on his face to make him look
oh my God.
a little bit older, and it would have been painful to watch across 48 minutes. But here instead, it's just like, no, I'm getting decrepit because I'm an animated character. It's fine. And it's just so well done here, because that is an ongoing Star Trek bit. Oh, look, everybody's getting older on this planet. It's a fast-aging planet. And here, Lower Decks managed to do it in a fun flashback that it kept light, it kept easy. I couldn't say enough positive things about Caves, especially because that is the heart and soul of so many Star Trek episodes. Star Trek loves Caves. So getting to see a quick take on what a show that would have had 22 episodes might have done with a bunch of cave stories, since we're only getting those 10 each year, it felt like a really good balance.
And, great economy. You're right. Star Trek loves a cave, because a cave is a set that is very cheap to produce and film in. And here, that is not the case. It does not matter where they are, but now we have established in Star Trek canon that they will go to a lot of caves. And so, and I love the first joke that I was just on the floor laughing immediately was, Mariner, I hate K, and it lasting through the teleportation where she's still screaming caves as they teleport into the cave.
And it's the fact that she says, you've seen one cave, you've seen them all. And now this is an animated show. They could have made every single cave in this episode different.
Yep.
But no, instead, they made them as similar as possible to feed into that joke of as if they filmed all in the same cave.
And then it wasn't just that they gave us 4 cave stories. because we would get them in a lot of seasons. They gave us 4 different types of Star Trek story in a
Yes.
cave. As soon as he said, "Oh yeah, I had a cave baby," again, I'm just on the floor laughing because that is Picard and Janeway and their salamander children.
Yep.
Craig.
That is, every group adventure with, one fish out of water teammate and a bunch of guest stars that they have to get along with.
Where it's obviously a backdoor pilot that's not going to work.
Right, exactly. And, even the joke of shutting Tendi up because it's not an applicable story, but still getting to it anyway. It was just all around. This was every episode of this show makes me say the same thing, which is just like they so get everything about Star Trek, and getting it is impressive and very cool. But I can talk to like 80 fanboys at a convention that get Star Trek and could not produce 5 paragraphs of Star Trek fan fiction that apply the getting it to a story that is great. What is so amazing is how they manage to apply the fact that they get it to such a wealth of stories that not only reinforce that they get it, but give us something new to get about the world.
Something that I don't know if we've mentioned before, but what I also love about the medium that they get to do through animation is we get so many stories with the holodeck.
Mm-hmm.
And create these, as opposed to have to constantly build sets that all, like, think about the episode with Tendy's family where Rutherford and Boimler go on the Mark Twain Southern ship.
Oh, wait, you're pointing out that even when it's the holodeck on the show, that's still a set they have to build. They don't actually have a holodeck.
Yeah, they would have had
funny.
to build this riverboat on the Next Generation, and instead, in the same
digital.
episode, as Orion, this would have been the most expensive episode of the season.
Probably.
If this had been live action, having these 2 things in one episode with this guy,
and it still would have looked bad.
He's someone from live action. I think we looked it up at the time, and it's terrible. But yeah, it would have looked terrible, and instead, we got to see 4 different characters dressed up as Mark Twain and a pirate wedding, and it all looked great. So yeah, great point.
So we got a little bit more Star Trek to talk about before we circle back to Lower Decks. Now, the Lower Decks team has said they're hoping to do another crossover with Strange New Worlds just this past weekend at New York Comic Con. Hopefully that comes due. There is the Kid Cudi Star Trek crossover event. And there is also the fact that Prodigy has been saved by Netflix. So we do have a wealth of Star Trek to trek it up with. Now, TK, you're the one who is the most excited about the Kid Cudi project.
I would not go that far.
Of the 3 of us.
I just heard it first.
Yes, well, that counts.
He relayed the information.
You felt it was important enough to convey to the rest of us. I'd seen it already. I'm mostly joking.
I kind of don't know what we're doing here, but I like it. Kid Cudi is not the first artist I would have associated with Star Trek, but I think is a really good crossover ambassador person. Because I think Star Trek comes off as an overwhelmingly white, even, when the actors are not white, it comes off as a very experience that sort of derives a lot of its inspiration and a lot of its storytelling from whiteness and from just kind of somewhat Eurocentric visions of the future. And that has been traditional of Star Trek. And I think they've grown out of that more and more over time, but it has been a step-by-step process. And I even look at something like Sabotage playing on the radio in the Kelvin timeline when Jim Kirk steals the car, which that is a hip hop song, but it's a Beastie Boys song, so it's 3 white Jewish guys. So like of all the things you could do to bring in some elements that don't feel very Star Trek and an orchestra or like weird composed techno music to indicate that it's future time, that moment was not really one that I was super impressed with. This is more kind of along the lines of what I think really has to happen to enfranchise other groups of people into Star Trek. Now, this, of course, also is part of a crossover event with Fortnite, which I think, I've just accepted the fact that Fortnite is a certain brilliant way to bring people into something, and I'm okay with it at this point. It's not for me. I'm not a big Fortnite person, but if that is something that leads people to look up and think about the stars in the future, that's great. It doesn't matter who it is.
Now, Kevo, you flashed the awesome Save Prodigy banner a moment ago, which I got to be honest, I was like, wow, is that what drones are doing? Are drones projecting those images now? Wow. And then I realized it's just Kevo makes really good images. I was kind of surprised because this was one of those things, Kevo, we watched the whole thing, and we just kind of kept being like, no one's even talking about it online. We showed a little bit of it to Jonah, who was equally sort of with
nonplussed.
us. Yeah. And so then when everybody was like, no, we got to save it, we were just kind of like, are you sure? So
look, we didn't not enjoy it even. And by the end, we were like, yeah, this is good. We're looking forward to season 2 and what more there is, especially, when it starts, the Janeway that you're seeing here is not Admiral Janeway. It is a hologram for educational purposes that gets to know these kids. The actual Janeway is introduced, and you see more of her over time, and there is the promise of seeing more of her in season 2. But, we weren't over the moon with this. And I swear, I did not start hearing people talk about Prodigy until it disappeared from Paramount Plus. And then all of a sudden it was, I was just about to watch that. Oh, stupid Paramount. They're the worst. They're terrible. And then every single post for Star Trek, every single promotional post, save Star Trek Prodigy. If any of you people were watching it before it was taken off Paramount Plus, it never would have been taken off Paramount Plus. Honestly. So now I am really, really, really curious to see what is going to happen here. If we are going to see people suddenly jump on with Prodigy and suddenly start watching it, with everything going on with all of the streamers, prices changing, and then Netflix is upping their prices again. So I really wonder how many Star Trek fans are going to get Netflix just for Prodigy. We were so insisted that we wanted it that bad, but
I think what people did not want was the feeling that a Star Trek show was unsuccessful and therefore
or unavailable.
Yeah, sure. Unavailable as well. I think the fear is, if something is bad, does that mean Star Trek is bad and we won't get more? But as we were talking about when we talked about the shift to Netflix, I think it's going to Netflix because it's much more common for people to have a Netflix subscription than a Paramount Plus subscription. And this is a kids show, especially people who screen kids content and children's content. Netflix is their big receptacle for that. While they might be perfectly happy if they have a Paramount Plus subscription to use that to show some kids programming, it is simply not the same volume, and it's not going to be the content that the other kids at their school are watching. So
Paramount Plus kids content is Nickelodeon content.
Right,
it's
exactly.
SpongeBob. It's
exactly.
They're
not doing a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
It's old stuff, and that's great. You might watch it for nostalgia's sake. You can even show it to kids who will enjoy it. But the new stuff Netflix makes, they make it on the cheap. They pump it out. Parents know where to find it. They know what to expect. And if this is a show worth making at all and screening and creating new Star Trek fans, it should go where the most young eyes are going to get onto it. I think there's no way this is a draw for subscribers to Paramount Plus. The only thing it can
Okay.
do is
It's
draw
find new audience. Okay.
yeah, is create a love of Star Trek in a 5-year-old that will ask for, to watch the shows when they're an 8-year-old. And that's great. That is a smart strategy. But I think this is kind of proof that, no, this really is not for you, adult Star Trek fan. And like, I think what you guys experience, that feeling of like, this is good, but like, am I losing my mind over it? No, is really because it is a kid show. It is the X-Men, the animated series of Star Trek. It is.
Oh yeah.
It's great for a kid, and I love that. Kids should have great programming. They should fall in love with Star Trek. But that is the audience, and if you're not that audience, I'm not saying you guys, I'm saying other fans of Star Trek that were kind of upset at losing this. You guys didn't really lose anything because this wasn't for you.
I agree. All right, guys. Do we have any final thoughts on Star Trek before we wrap this guy up and move ourselves on over to our next project?
Well, we did Prodigy, we did Kid Cudi. Was there one more?
Just the fact that they've said that they're going to try and do another crossover, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I think that's open and shut. I'm sure the only thing that would stop it is scheduling and logistics. And given the actor strike, that's actually a real possibility that doesn't happen. Just because everybody's going to have to kind of scramble when the actor strike ends to get on whatever show they were on, get it produced and get it out so we don't lose too much time. So that could result in not doing the Lower Decks crossover in whatever the next season is, but having to wait for it. But otherwise I think that is a perfect example of just a swing, a total knock it out of the park swing, and there's no reason not to do it again.
Heck yeah.
All right, guys. Closing thoughts on Star Trek.
They're still in a great stride.
We're trekking those stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope we hear some more concrete updates about some of the projects coming down the pipeline soon, but we've heard some pretty good stuff already about Starfleet Academy, which is going to have Mariner as a writer.
Oh, nice.
So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, she's such an amazing actor, performer. To see her being embraced by the production side of Star Trek, like such legacy actors as Nimoy and Frakes is amazing. Can't wait for her to be given the opportunity to direct someday. She will crush it. Yeah, just excited for more. Hope we get more concrete stuff soon.
Jonah, your final thoughts on Star Trek.
They be trekking through them stars. I'm having a great time over at Lower Decks. There's really, my only qualms come from this mystery not really having enough stakes for me to really want to care about it. I'm interested, but there's no threat comparative to the Packlids or, the entire ship, having to be reassigned because of the interview. It was just one of those things of, but everything else, I'm enjoying all these stories and like wrapping up, oh, we got another Badgley, Goodgley, Logic-y story.
We hope it comes together though, so we will see. Let's get these stars a trekking. And until then, are we moving on to Drag Race? The captain's not on deck.
Oh,
Is that
we
the
sure
in charge?
are. Yeah, let's do it. Let's. No, you made the right call. I'm back. Let's do it. Drag Race time.
Which is my Drag Race book? Oh, here it is. Duh. It's got the repeater badge.
The repeater badge.
All right. So this season of UK, I said it from the first episode. I'm going to keep saying it. It doesn't seem like the drama is manufactured, but it does seem like they manufactured a season with a lot of drama. And it's hard not to notice how much like kind of pettiness there is this season, in a way that is totally fair. It's just perhaps not what I've come to expect from UK. And it leaves me wondering, you okay, hun?
Bing bang bong, sing sing song, ding ding dong, UK
Ah.
hun. Now, what I'm finding about this season so refreshing is I think this has a very lovely cast of girls. The girls are great. They're all, for the most part, really likable, enjoyable. They seem to be having fun, but also, kind of even more importantly, RuPaul seems to be having a lot of fun. RuPaul is bantering a lot with them. RuPaul's like smiling, giving like good actual critiques to the girls. Like, she seems like really present and enjoying herself, and I think that adds to this cast's ability to kind of just have this silly, dumb fun. They're very unserious, and it's very enjoyable to watch. We also, no drama could go into the next episode. We all have to resolve it the episode that we have it in, because apparently that's how these girls roll, which is great, but also it's interesting television.
I think that is a carryover of the fact that they tend to just be more polite and more peaceful. And that is part of where the slightly weird disconnect comes in. I think after 4 seasons, the lack of chaos was resulting in sort of a lack of change and randomization and mutation, just like natural changes and flows over time, because the UK queens are just kind of more used to being civil and not really engaging in out there drama. And it was really funny because you would see, I mean, again, like the first example I always go to is red wig and a silver dress, I don't think, because like that fight is nothing, but it's the only one of the season, so it looms huge, and it just really isn't anything. It is
it's no tired ass showgirl, go back to Party City where you belong.
Yeah, it's no I don't need a sugar daddy. If I want a sugar daddy, I go out and get one. It's, you know, they've just never done things that way, and I do think that is a refreshing alternative to America, but I can also see how an international fandom, I'm sure for the UK it's great, but for an international fandom, it maybe feels a little lacking. I don't necessarily agree, but I can see how that would be the case. So it's clear that this season production picked girls and then said to them, what really gets you ahead in the international drag race stage, what's going to get you bookings, what's going to get you remembered and recognized, and maybe on a Versus the World or an All Stars that has international girls, is if we know you can be a character and bring a story. And this is a bunch that, if nothing else, is attempting to rise to that challenge. But when you have a moment where like Caramel and Vicky really threw Banksy under the bus, and then they had a really nasty fight, like a proper American drag race fight. Banksy exits, which like doesn't happen a lot on any drag race, so like is a big deal. And then she immediately comes back and goes, I want to apologize. Like immediately, the civility cannot we can't lose. Yeah, like we have to have the civility back as quickly as possible. We can give you an American style drag race fight, but it cannot last. As Jonah said, it can't go into the next episode. And I really wonder how much of that is encouraged by production. Is the girls just really not wanting to behave that way? I'm so curious about it, but it does feel like a slight disconnect, because in America, that fight would go off into the ether and be pulled back whenever they wanted for extra drama in other minutes. There would be very little, you know, I just want to apologize, and, you know, I think you're an upstanding queen.
It's, you know, we have the fight in Untucked, we have the fight the next morning, or we have the fight when they untuck in the workroom to go, woof, let's see what we're going to do next week. We'll have the fight in the morning where it's really awkward and everyone doesn't want to really talk about it.
You'll have the fight 3 episodes later where somehow they're both still there and
they're on a team again.
And then one of them goes home and the next team challenge brings one of them back.
Yeah, I mean, they really clearly think this is something that's missing from UK. And on the one hand, it's tough to argue with. I think, you know, as a person that pays attention to like what makes a franchise work, I can see where they're coming from. But I did kind of always think that part of the charm of UK was that they weren't going to do it the same way as the American girls. And I think that there have been a lot of times on American seasons where even if I love the character in the fight, even if it's Gia Gunn just so obviously going after Pheromone, and you know that Gia does not care or have any emotions about this. She is simply trying to give you storylines. Even if I'm laughing at it and I just think it's a hoot, it's also very noisy and very chaotic and often takes away from paying attention to the artistry. And there are a lot of times where I think the UK girls, it feels like a feature moment for each of them every time because they're not letting things get so clouded with noise. And I guess we're in this zone of, do the fans dictate how we do the show because they won't watch it otherwise? Or do we tell the fans, this is what drag is in this particular location, and, invite them to the table?
And, I think part of that has to do with understanding an international marketability. When we think about how RuPaul has structured the American show, it's structured to American excess.
Yeah.
I honestly can't speak to the nature of the British or the UK Big Brother, but I know that the American Big Brother, you can get those feeds and cams all the time.
Yeah.
And that's something American audiences love. And that's something we really do play into. We love the excess of too much. We have, Talking Dead and Bran's Dick Doesn't Work, the talk show. I don't know what the after Game of Thrones one was. But, when it comes to the other countries, they don't have Untucked. They don't have their own all-stars.
Which I actually did find out. Philippines does have Untucked. They have a proper Untucked where it's filmed separately and they have the full 22 minutes. I believe they're the only international season to have a proper Untucked.
Wow.
Philippines is a riot. I highly recommend it. It's really, they're an interesting mix because they get very messy, but they are also so sweet and lovely. There's a lot of great, and also Jiggly is just a really great judge. I love her so much. What a transition for a queen. Holy shit.
Yes to all of that, what we're saying.
Yeah.
This episode of UK, I thought the challenge was fine. It was a little weird in judging criteria. They do that often so they can justify whatever storylines they want to go with, which is fair. Yeah. That's par for the course for whatever reality show you're watching. Yep. They will have these ambiguous rules and criteria that they can use as for their judging to make it make sense for the story. I will say, putting on my tinfoil hat, and we kind of talked about this while we as a group were watching this in our green room, that this week's dearly departed one Miss Naomi Carter, who we love, we stan, absolutely charismatic, gorgeous, really can't wait to see what she does next. I really was because of her knee injury. I don't think they realized how bad it was going into the girl group challenge, and they were like, okay, we can do this. And then they're like, we're doing a musical next week. No, we cannot have someone injured. No, we're not doing this.
Because then that decides her part. Her, whatever her part is has to be the part with the least amount of dancing. I think the problem here is it's hard not to talk about what happened and kind of be like, well, they did it was that Naomi and I forget who did a chest bump and Dee and Naomi fell and hurt her knee. So she was goofing off and got hurt. Now, certainly, I'm sure production has smart enough lawyers that that's not going to be a problem, but that's not something they're going to want to have around. It's actually it doesn't look great. And it's a shame because I thought Naomi was one of the most talented girls this season. So,
yeah. I mean, thankfully for them, people are not as wildly litigious in the UK. So I wasn't super, every time there's an injury, especially since Eureka, every time there's an injury in America, I think they're really careful to, Cornbread rolled her ankle like walking and they were like, get the hell about, they sent poor Cornbread home, which, makes sense. There's just, you don't want to be liable for seeing somebody injured and saying, keep working in America. In the UK, I think, you don't want to push someone, but I don't think there is the same concern. And I think this is a really good example of a case where I don't think there was any concern about them being held legally responsible for the injury. But had they continued to be like, well, you got to come in, you got to stand there and do the choreography. Oh, you can't. Okay, we'll put you on a divan. Like, it just gets...
It's no cheerleading challenge where they didn't show it on screen, but Eureka was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Like, her knee was that bad. There were more people who got injured that they did not show.
Yeah.
They did not think that challenge through.
No.
And since then, I think had to have a lot more talk with like games lawyers of like, what can we actually get away with and do that's not going to have any like physical activity that can't come back to, bite us in the ass.
But the fact is, you can eat shit dancing. That is a smooth floor on that runway. That is not,
sure.
And they're telling girls to dance in heels. This is all part of the job. Of course, like it's okay that the cheerleading challenge was not okay. That was not smart. But like asking, I still can't believe BMX bitch has happened. I truly cannot. Again, I think that is a much less litigious country where liability is just very different. But I just... What?
Just creatively speaking, I can't believe BMX bitches happened. But yes, in terms of creativity, in terms of litigiousness, everything about it.
Creatively, I can't believe it in like a stars in my eyes way. I'm so in love with it. But I also think it is a terrible idea and just so ill-advised. That's my favorite kind of creative endeavor. Absolutely shouldn't happen, but I'm seeing it happen. Yes. I think this was the best possible outcome from an injury. She got to stay a little longer. She got to be featured throughout episodes, like engage in a challenge. They gave her phenomenal critiques. The weird thing, the double-edged sword of it, what?
The one thing they did dirty, they zoomed in on her feet.
Her fucking toes.
Oh, I felt so bad because these are majority of the time people born men, not always. And we, as people who are born as men tend to have much larger feet that do not fit into women's shoes.
Yes.
And it was all scrunched, and I felt bad for her because it was like a potato, but prison for two reasons.
Yeah.
No stocking.
Yeah.
No toenail polish. How dare you?
Yeah.
Prison.
Girl, you could not pay me.
You're on camera. You know.
And no lashes.
Yeah.
It makes me think of all the Project Runway designers that sent someone down the runway in the early years with stuff unfinished, and now we have HD cameras, girl.
Yep.
You can't do that. People are zooming in.
And now they go up to those models too, and they start touching the material. They look at it. They put it on.
Somebody just pokes you in the face for fun.
And Rue poked you in the face from the start. So, come on.
But I think, the fact that they gave her such glowing critiques and that RuPaul really spent time being like, I love your voice.
Yes.
I actually think that was a real gift. I think it speaks to Jonah's theory, which I really do think is true. I think that was a real gift for somebody they knew they had to eliminate. But really, I think when RuPaul says to a queen on her way out, like, you're great, your accent that sounds silly to a lot of us is actually really fun and it's part of your charm. That is the type of stuff that sticks in a fan's head and makes them want to go see you at a live show, which is for these girls, the gold, because they're not fucking getting any prizes or money out of this.
No, they get the Rupita badge, which
you cannot sell.
No, but we have 6 winners now, which is great. I love when we have diversity of wins.
Yeah.
But if we're getting real, and we're going to get real here, the bottom 2 really kind of should have been Vicky and Caramel.
Yes.
To something that Nico said, and I think thinking about it a little bit more, I don't think Banksy was the best moderator but individually out of the team had the best performance.
Yeah.
Because I just, as moderator of this show, if I'm just like, wait, what is my line supposed to be? How can you guys succeed? And if it's supposed to be scripted, that really is like, that's acting 101 you do not do. And that was not in the spirit of yes and. That was in the spirit of, wait, I need to make myself look good. And that is
Moderator
that,
is the same as team leader. I agree completely.
And on the US season, I really think Rue would have been like, you're responsible for those girls. You left them hanging. How can you be in charge when you're staring off into the distance? Like, it was something where I feel like it's almost like she said, oh, I have a lower bar for these girls or something. I don't know. It felt like something she would have been dinged on any other time.
And I think that speaks to Jonah's point about how these are very nebulous criteria.
The criteria for this was just being funny.
Yeah.
But they also gave certain people, no, we wanted you to open up more, which was just a little bit weird. Lest we also forget, Vicky forgot Caramel's name and called her Banksy.
Yep. And that, that was a weird moment because she threw it to a teammate, which is the moderator's job. So she clearly also knew that the moderation here was a little less all on Banksy. A
little less moderate.
Because the thing is, to the idea that the criteria aren't, straight up, we've seen versions of this challenge where the moderator goes hard as the moderator. Not a single one overall did. There was a defined person who was the moderator, but I think that was really for the peril.
Because you look at the other teams and it's Michael started talking, but didn't really pitch everything to everybody. And it's the same thing with Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Dee Dee started talking first, but didn't really pitch everything to everybody.
Yeah.
They use this term of moderator, but it wasn't an actual role. If that was going to be the role, I was about to say that they would have done like, three mini challenge winners. But no, because I look back at season 14, which had the panel challenge.
Yeah.
And they got to decide who was the moderator just based off those teams.
The one I always go to is the 10, what you would do for DragCon, which is a challenge I hate more than any other.
Not a good
Everybody
challenge.
looks terrible. I love those girls so much, and it just made them all look stupid and bad at their jobs. But that was one where they were like, this is the moderator. This person has the job of moderating and will be judged accordingly. This really felt like, oh, that's the moderator. And if they do bad, we can say, you're in danger, girl. You weren't a good moderator. But is it going to be the thing that sends somebody home? In this case, no, because I think we already had a setup for who we needed to go. Yeah.
And it felt, as we were watching this, and TK and I definitely agreed on at least this point, it felt a little gaslighty to say, no, we didn't bring up your name, when it's very, and Kate kind of pointed this out, well, if you're saying I didn't miss lines and somebody missed lines, there's only two other people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
Own that you were upset, own that you were upset that you weren't the moderator, and I would rather you be honest about that part of it and be like, I don't really think you did the best job, and I wish I had spoken up more about it, as opposed to saying, no, your name didn't come up, when it absolutely did come up.
Yeah.
And I think part of what it made it hard for Banksy is they said it in their talking head. This feels like it came out of nowhere. It felt like we really were collaborating, and even if it didn't go the best in the challenge, it felt like we were all in this together. And because they got spoken to first, they pushed. And I think that's where maybe Banksy felt blindsided by it, as opposed to not really seeing the problem. Especially because Banksy had this very heartwarming conversation with Vicky in the makeup chair.
And I can't help but notice that Vicky and Caramel were on that team of 5 girls for the girl group challenge that all desperately wanted to be together and feel like a clique. And that's fine. That's every Drag Race season cliques form. But of course they're going to throw the girl that's not part of their crew under the bus. And I guess like things like that are kind of the natural drama that happens on Drag Race that I feel like you can capitalize on. And what you're really seeing this season is, I feel like producers are saying to them, do not back down off of this. Keep it going. Talk about it in the workroom after the show.
Yes,
You know, show us you're a character. And I'm just so curious where Banksy fell in that thinking and on that spectrum, because getting up and walking out of the room is, you know, a big stance. And I don't hate it at all, but I was so surprised when she came back in and sat down and just like smoothed things over. Again, not a bad thing, not an evaluative judgment, just really not how I expected it to go.
I didn't really see the situation as so heightened as all of that, though. Like, you guys have used the
Same.
word gaslighting a few times, and I'm like, that's a really serious word, and I feel like what I heard them say on the runway was that they felt like there was a problem with the moderation. They didn't name names specifically because they were, in my observation, it felt like they were trying not to come too hard for her. They were just saying in general the moderation of the panel was kind of sloppy, and rather than naming her and giving her all of their responsibility, they didn't. And so then when she sort of came at them being like, you're coming at me, I feel like that's why they gave that response, being like, we weren't trying to throw you under the bus hardcore. But like, I think we all agreed the entire time we were watching how sloppy that whole situation was going. And I think by not naming Banksy directly, but instead saying it was the moderation, that was their way of trying not to go after her so directly. And I mean, based on the way that the judging turned out, the judges must have agreed, because it's not like Banksy was in the bottom two. So I think that the judges themselves even saw it. For as sloppy as the panel was, it wasn't necessarily all on Banksy. I really more agree with Nico, where I think there was an added level of responsibility on Banksy as the moderator. I think they all dropped the ball. I think when that happens, any one of them can step up and decide to be the shining star, and take the lead. And if you didn't choose to take that opportunity for yourself when it was sitting right there for you, you weren't really helping either. So I was glad to see that, you know, it wasn't put too heavily on Banksy either.
And as a national treasure, absolute gem and breakout star of the show for me, Kate Butch said, they all did bad and they're all just trying to deflect it onto somebody else. Please go.
And as national treasure, Kate Butch said, am I a drunk?
Is that a problem? Got like what?
4 drinks in 3 hours.
4 drinks in 3 hours. Is that too much?
No, you're English. It's fine.
My God, I do more than that on this
Kate Butch.
show.
Kate Butch, I think, has the it factor of being charismatic, being funny, having that likability of like, I would go to a Kate Butch show. Just needs the seeing yourself on camera and on TV,
The money polish,
and having a little bit of help with the makeup and a little bit of like, this is how you put the look together. This is what color blonde looks good on you, because that was not her color blonde, as RuPaul pointed out.
And I want to interact with one other thing about the judging on this episode. I actually thought none of them came anything close to a masterclass. I know that the challenge was be funny to a masterclass, but at the same time, the challenge wasn't just sit there and do shtick. And so,
this isn't an 80s talk show. Like, that's not a masterclass.
Like Coffee Talk was a more dedicated, driven masterclass than this was. I could not figure out how any of them were doing anything other than their tight 5 of the vagina monologues. And, you know, it just was really awkward for me because they were told demonstrate while being funny. No one came anywhere close to demonstration, and no one came outside of the one group that close to being funny. So it just felt like once it went horribly wrong, they decided, let's just judge it however we need. They went with Canada rules. Let's just judge it however we need to make the villain look like the villain and the victim look like the victim. Canada. No, seriously. I'm like, I want to have a like really good dinner with Brooke. I want to sit down with Brooke, and I just want to be like, sweetheart, I just need you to walk me through some of these. I'm like, I want to treat it like a Tuesdays with Maury, right? But you know, she doesn't have to be old. She's young and beautiful. We could do it right now. I want to sit down and I just want to be like, walk me through this decision. Walk me through this decision. how were you able to sit next to Jeffrey and not just drool these episodes? So like, I really want to know, because this did feel a little bit like some shenanigans when it came to the judging.
It's that damn Alan Carr.
The Spexy
always is.
Alan Carr. Oh
Who
my
is
god.
not Jimmy Carr.
You know, every time that they ask us to bounce back and forth between Alan Carr and, oh gosh, I feel so bad. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Graham.
Thank you. Graham Norton. I'm just like, I actually think that the show would be so much stronger with the two of them bouncing their very different humor against each other. I'm not saying don't have a guest more often, but the two of them shine really well with Rue, and I think that they can both do a really good job supporting her. And I don't know. I'm just suggesting Rue have more lackeys, I guess is what I'm saying. Just more people making her look funny.
Well, you see, it's the same reason why we can't have the incredibly funny Ross Matthews as well as the stylish Carson Kressley on the same episode as one another. They're each other's shadow.
Well, and I imagine you only get a couple of minutes of Raven's time when she's done doing Rue's beat, and there isn't time to do two people's beat after Rue. So it's going to be Ross or Carson, because they both occasionally have that sheen, that like very, we know we're under heavy lights, perfect sheen. And I
am 100% certain it is just some little gay intern from a local makeup academy who they bring in with a sander to just buff their faces to said sheen.
It's the same gay intern who handed RuPaul her sweatpants.
Exactly.
Bring me my sweats.
Now, I do want to point out, you had one other really interesting point to make about Caramel and lip syncing this season.
Oh, yes. So we are 4 episodes into this season, and Caramel has lip sunk 3 times, and only once being in the bottom.
So that's kind of crazy.
This was the second time in the bottom, right?
No. Because the first episode 1, she was lip syncing for the win against Vicky.
Yeah.
Episode 2, she was just in the bottom, but she wasn't lip syncing.
Oh, she didn't lip sync. Okay, yeah. And then, yeah.
Last week she was against Tamara.
And
Yeah.
she won against Tamara.
last week.
Last week, yes.
Not Tamara.
The worst.
I love Tamara. Love Pink.
Oh, okay. In that regard, I love Caramel. Love Tamara.
It's the same statistic as Denali on season 13, who had to lip sync 3 times in her first 3 episodes, but only being at the bottom once.
Get it, Denali. And girl was so successful, they've named so many cars after her.
And a whole city.
No, not you two.
Okay, well, I guess Kevin was in Denali denial.
Denali is just a
Yeah.
river in Alaska.
You're just sleeping on the couch.
This is nosediving.
No.
So listen, here's my question about this season of UK.
What?
My closing thoughts.
What?
I think the problem isn't that the girls aren't, performing the way we're expecting of a UK season. I think it's the nature of the evolution of Drag Race across all of the international versions. We're in a position where we're hoping to see these girls come over to America, whether it's through an international edition, or maybe it's getting to see them be part of the Work the World tour for a couple of weeks, something like that. And these girls are really bringing what Jonah likes to call a winner's package. Beautiful gowns.
Great gowns, beautiful gowns.
And, they're also bringing talent, and they're bringing personal stories. It was really brave for, Banksy talked about being, in a relationship with a woman, and the journey to being in a relationship with a woman perhaps isn't the most conventional, but it's one that's real, and people do not always treat so kindly in the queer community. And so it was really brave of Banksy to declare her love for a woman, unafraid and unabashed. And I think, there's a little bit downplay, but I think Kara actually was trying to say in some ways she's aromantic. She has yet to experience love. And so, that's a part of the, trans experience is expressing your sexuality in whatever form it takes. And, she was brave there as well. So I just think for me, one of the things about this episode is these girls really did bring the vulnerability. And I want to see so many of them be successful. I am a little worried that there is going to be a we can't come back from it fight at some point this season. I feel like someone's going to say something to someone, and it's going to be my precious Caramel, and it's going to be her and Tamara, and it's going to be too bad. But I really feel like we are gearing up for a Thanos level snap for something here.
I think Tamara and Caramel are entirely in cahoots.
Right.
I think that everything they say, they understood early on that one of the reasons they were at such an advantage was because they live together. They know each other so well.
But they didn't tell each other. They hid it. They didn't tell each other that they were both.
Of course they
the
did.
leads.
It's so weird that we're both packing up tons of shit and can't talk about where we're going.
All of our gigs. Can I borrow that wig? No. Oh,
nope.
Well, you can't borrow this wig either.
Yeah. No, I think I think they might say something terrible that we as the audience are like, oh shit. And I feel bad for whoever does it if it's, kind of planned and it just makes them look bad. But I do think that they are fully in cahoots. And I think it's kind of what, I think it's kind of what the producers are going for and paying for. Like, they knew they could do this. They could get these two, and, the American girl would live up to the challenge and bring her buddy with her, and we'll all be okay from there. But to everything else you said, I mean, I think this is a big make or break point. I think one of the other big questions that a lot of these girls need to ask is like, do you want to pivot towards America? Or are we getting to a point where you just want to expand out wherever you can? Would it be just as good if you were really successful in Asia and, could tour Australia and a lot of other places, but maybe not do super well in America? Like, what is the measure of success? Is it for every girl to be possibly on a season that is produced in LA? I don't have the answers, and I'm very curious, and I think it might change over time. But I think we will look at season 5 as like one of those really big changing points at which, after both production and the goals of the girls will not be what they were in these earlier seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I'm really enjoying this season. I think because for the most part, the cast is having such a good time, so we, the audience, can have a great time with them. Season 4 felt a little snoozy a bit. There wasn't really.
It was a real slog.
It really wasn't a lot in terms of entertainment in the reality sense coming from season 4. So it felt like the pacing really kind of slowed down. Even though I really enjoy Danny as a winner and everything that Danny was able to bring, even Cheddar Gorgeous, I really loved their fight to the top. It was really great seeing that go down. But the rest of the season kind of felt a little slow in ways that I wish just picked up the pace, and having arguments and fights and drama helps pick things up. This season, really great cast of queens. Really nobody I dislike. I really like Miss Naomi Carter, and it is unfortunate that she had to go really because of the injury. And I do agree with you, TK. This is the best thing that could have happened for her. But I think in the moment, it must feel gutted to kind of know, this is kind of why things are going down the way they are.
I did it to myself.
Yeah, it wasn't even like... It wasn't a Victoria Scone where she was doing a knee slide, and she wasn't in a challenge. She was horse playing and goofing off with her sister. Which, my last thing is, I really am hoping they bring up on the stage to Dee that if you're going to have such a large breastplate, you really need to have something covering the neck part, because you look like a doll. Like, a lot of times when you see those giant breastplates, you see these big statement necklaces or a dress that has a collar to hide that. And it's really taking out of the fantasy of, oh, okay, it's It's kind of like when you have two different dolls and you take the head off of one and you put it on a different one, and it doesn't really quite match, and you're like, oh, it looks off. That's what it kind of looks like.
All right, Kevo, how about you? Final thoughts on this season of Drag Race?
I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. It's still super early, I think, for me in a lot of ways. So, I always have trouble trying to pick a winner, trying to pick a favorite. We haven't done Snatch Game yet, right?
No,
Right.
that's probably going to be the episode after
this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we just whittled down to
7.
8. Oh, okay, yeah, even better.
7, and we're doing the Rusical. So then after the Rusical, it's going to be Snatch.
No, I think we just whittled down to 8 because it was 3 groups of 3.
Oh,
in
no,
this
it is 8.
episode.
It is 8.
So now we have 8. So it might be another week or 2 until Snatch. That's fine.
They're probably going to
We'll
do it
get
at
there.
7. They don't like doing Snatch Game outside of specific All Stars, which
It'll be after the Rusical.
Yeah, it's most likely to be the episode after this one.
So it'll be 2 great weeks in a row. That'll be interesting.
Oh, well, we hope.
Well, it'll be entertaining, even if it's not good.
Well, from one group of contestants who can pop their hair on and off to another, we're going
Nice.
to take a look at Lego Masters. We don't have too much on this one this week. We just like touching in on it. It was a great week for Will Arnett, who also showed up over on Snake Oil, where he was charming with everybody's favorite ex-fiance of Heather Locklear, obviously because your favorite Heather Locklear ex-husband is Richie Sambora. So I guess I know a little too much about Heather Locklear. So this episode had something I think Lego Masters is really struggling with this season. When you telegraph the only people who matter way early in the episode, I have no choice but to assume if they're not doing really, really well, they are the person going home, because you're not really spending enough time on both groups of people going home. It's you mention someone who's going home and then you spend all the time on the other person. And this also had one of the most awkward, quick pivot, get rid of these people. After I thought these two guys were going to be finalists, not because I loved them, because they had Lego Masters finalist energy, right?
The winner package.
They had the winner package. They had the winner build.
Yeah.
The winner bricks.
But this no, they didn't. They didn't
yeah.
have the winner bricks. They were sadly brickless. How did you guys feel about what really to me is shaping up to an expensive season that's not really giving me a lot of room to fall in love with the cast?
Well, if you want to fall in love with Sam and Nina, then you're fine.
What is that?
Here's the thing. I do love them. I think they're adorable.
Same.
I think the builds are great. There is a point where I think it makes sense to say, hey, you guys are obviously doing great. You're in the top here and we're not giving it to you. We're giving it to the other guys just because early on, too many wins, it gets a little stale. I'm not sure if this is maybe like the Lego company creed where like the person who numerically won must win on the show. I don't know what the exact criteria are, but them having so many wins this early on is stifling only insofar as they're also doing this other thing that you're talking about, Nico, where like if you can see very early on who is getting the focus and there is no fake outs here, that is who to pay attention to, either for success or failure, and everybody else kind of fades into the background. It's a very weird mix of scripting and editing and story writing for the show. It's something that happens, on Drag Race sometimes, but it's amazing how good they've gotten at a fake out where like they will really choose to focus hard on someone with a great storyline and then send home a person that just didn't do well, but not give that person a ton of focus this episode.
See UK season 5, Banksy going into their backstory about their relationship and talking
Yep.
about their family and having this weird coming out, but being like, haha, JK, and then not being in the bottom.
All
Exactly.
of their art is graffiti.
Even with that whole bit about moderators, that was really to make you go, oh, she's in peril. And then switch, flipped, and we're on to the people that are actually in trouble, who we really didn't talk about a ton this episode. It is the exact opposite with Lego Masters. And I don't really know what to do with it, because this is a show about making beautiful things, making great art, being a phenomenal builder.
From
and
inside your heart, even. Like, it's like, build joy.
Yeah. So I'm not here for the same, like, oh, I want to see them fight. I want to see them girls fight. But I am here for a little bit of like, who's editing and who's writing this? Is this a first time gig for you? Have you watched any like other reality TV show? People have perfected these formulas. You can just steal them. Nobody cares.
I agree. I'm finding this problem with this season that I think it's coming down to production of them not knowing how to tell a story.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
The editing has been really great. There's been a lot of, like, if you're paying attention, like funny sound effects that they're putting into certain things. They'll cut to certain things. They'll turn up the mic of certain people. The editors are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they have to be told by producers, this is a story we're going with, cut it in this way. And it feels like the producers do, like you said, do not know how to tell a compelling story, because the people that were in danger this episode, we only focus on the people that were going home. And it makes it feel like it's very obvious who's going home, and it takes away that suspense. There's also a problem, not that other shows won't have favoritism. I think to the season of Top Chef, where the winner, Chef Paul, won, not kidding, half of the 18 challenges he was a part of.
Yep.
One person won 9 challenges. That was a lot.
How can you even, like, how can you feel positive rooting for him? How can you feel like you might get anything rooting for someone else?
Sometimes people get shady when you see somebody doing so well and you look at people and they're a front runner. But there are ways to make front runners compelling and interesting. We've had plenty of Drag Race winners who were the front runners of their season that have compelling, engaging runs, and we're beloved, and we're like, yes, you did it. And it feels you feel vindication for having someone that you was doing well the entire season to win. The most recent example, I think, is Sasha Colby. Doing so well the entire season, for her to nail the finale and kind of blow everybody else out of the water was like, yes, that's great. But here on this show, where it's less about the competitiveness, where Will has to try to bait people into making sound clips that they can kind of use as drama, and they're kind of like giggling and laughing and saying it not wholeheartedly and jokingly. This is a much less the competitive edge isn't really there for this show. So I don't, I'm not specifically looking for that, but it does feel, this is another situation where we're seeing people just constantly win. We had this problem in season 1. We had this problem in season 2, and it's the same people winning over and over. And it feels like, if I was there in the season, I'd be like, I'm not winning. You can say that on Drag Race, that there are plenty of probably people who at a certain point kind of recognize, I'm not going to win the season. I don't think I am. But they'll still be able to have a career. They'll still be able to work. These are people who, this is something fun for them. There isn't, unless you're Boone and wanting to work at Lego, there isn't really a Lego career for you after this.
Not so much.
So if I'm, part of this on a team, and I see Sam and his mom, win over and over again, and they're getting praise, and not that they're doing bad builds, but it's like, they're going to win this.
Yeah. And that's been a problem we've had each season, actually, like a really strong front runner. So it'll be really interesting to see where this season goes. Now, does anybody have any, other than Sam and Nina, favorites going into this season? I keep forgetting his name, but the young man who's here with his grandfather, I root for them. Thank you. Poppy and Ben. I root for them. I also really root for, if you would not do me that, I'm so sorry I don't have everybody's name memorized. If you could just pop back to the main screen. The gentlemen, the teachers, Luis and
I knew who you were going to say.
Alex, these gentlemen, as a teacher and as a Latin teacher, I also root for them. Yeah, they're handsome, but like I'm genuinely saying I root for them.
As other Cubanos.
Yeah. I root for them, and I think they're very cool. So
I love the brother and sister as well. I don't see them having the best chance.
unfortunately,
Yes. Paul and Yelita, thank you. But they love each other. They are working on this together. The way that she talked about wanting to be like her big brother, seeing her brother play with Lego and wanting to, do the same was just sweet. And some of these are just, I hope people hear the stories and work with them. I hope parents watch this and see their sons play with Lego and think like, oh, I don't need to get my daughter girl Legos. I can just have her play with the Legos her brother
I
is
can
using.
be a girl who Legos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For me, I really like the musical teacher friends. I think they just have a very sweet relationship, and I think they're just there to have fun.
Yes.
I don't think they're there to win. I think they're just there to have a good time.
they're there to promote their TikTok.
No.
No.
Alyssa and them.
Allison and Melanie.
Yeah,
Yes.
They're
the girl-
billed as just friends.
That's right. Oh, but
They don't have a teacher. Just
Well,
saying.
they went to music school.
They went to
together.
music school together.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
anything special.
They're just here to
friends.
party.
They just seem like they're having a good time. They make songs every episode. Like I said, I don't think they're there to win. I think they're just there to have a good time on TV and get to, because you also get a stipend for being on an episode. You get paid to make Lego on TV.
They just
I
want
like
the
the
drinks
sweater.
from the Lego lounge.
In the interior Lego lounge.
I also love the 13th Doctor's sweater over here. She's very comfortable.
Yeah, that is a vibe.
Beautiful.
Kevo, do you have any front runners?
Or favorites.
No. People keep dropping like flies. I wanted to root more for the husbands. They got cut early.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan and Chris were cool. Jordan was hot. They're cut. Lego always has a way of pulling the rug out from under you when it comes to who they end up picking for the final. So I hate taking bets on this one. They're probably going to come for a really tender relationship next. So I would guess the next people they're going to cut will either be the mothers or Poppy and Ben. But I don't know. They're ruthless, man.
I will say, I love this idea of this challenge. Really, and
Oh, the next one?
no, this one.
Oh, this one we just did.
And Amy pointed out, it's one of the most creative challenges to do of taking the abstract concept of sound and doing the reverse. What makes this sound? And you can literally make anything. Your only parameters are have it make sense with the sound. I love this idea for this challenge. Really, really, especially after the cat challenge.
Oh my God.
I am not going to let that challenge go. That was such a bad challenge. I am.
Yeah,
sorry.
you should not.
But there are some people that I like, and there are some teams that I wish I could root for, but it feels like I never get enough time with people,
especially this season. Yeah,
it feels like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of glimpse of what these people are doing, and these people are doing, and these are the people we're focusing on. They have really great build, and this is who Amy and Jamie are talking about. Like, they're doing well, and Amy and Jamie talk about them struggling, so they're probably going home. We're going to be in the bottom. How can they salvage this? We didn't bring them up at all, but there's literally a married couple that I think has maybe collective like 5 minutes of screen time. I feel bad because
they're beautiful. They're born on third base. They're fine.
Exactly.
I don't
We've
care
had
for
enough
them.
married couple.
people like not enough time with everybody.
But do you know what you will care for? What we have coming next week, which is going to be, as soon as I saw it, I knew you'd be thrilled, the Cirque du Soleil theme.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we also have advanced knowledge on the challenge that is going to be coming the week after that, which will be asking us the question, is it brick?
Wait.
So it seems we will be having an Is It Cake challenge coming in 2 weeks on Lego Masters. The name of the episode after Cirque du Soleil is It Brick? So I have to assume you're hearing it here first. Not really. That we have an exciting brick challenge coming up.
I mean, they had Nicole Byer on, so they're no strangers to inviting the Netflix hosts over.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't even surprise me if Mikey Day was the guest judge that episode.
Yeah. So
Oh,
we've got just like we have 2 really exciting weeks coming for Drag Race, we know we have 2 pretty exciting weeks coming for Lego Masters, so that's awesome.
That is awesome. I'm pretty stoked about that. I cannot imagine what a Cirque du Soleil Lego challenge will be like.
Oh my god, I know. It's gonna have to like hold a human being. And they've had to do stuff like that, so I
Yeah.
don't see why not.
I'm so curious. It's going to be fun.
Well, until we come back for all of that amazing content, I believe we're doing an awesome comic episode on Thursday. And then this weekend is a Halloween weekend. So we're going to have some spooky, cool programming coming your way. But until we come back to spook everybody out, Jonah, as always, it's a pleasure. And where can everybody find you?
As always, it is a pleasure, and you can find me over on any social media at Peak Jonah. That's Peak.
All right. Now, Kevo, not only are you our producer extraordinaire, but you do all of these amazing graphics. You bring it all together and make it look so good, right? Where can everybody find you and your incredible work?
Well, most of my incredible work you can find right here on this network, and I want to give yet another amazing shout out to StreamYard for finally giving me video backgrounds. I've been having the best time. So if you want to get any of those from me, you can find me over on the socials at KevoReally. That's KevoReally. Teak, where can the folks at home find you, my good sir?
At TK Elemental, of course. Nico, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me all over this amazing network, including some of my music, which is here, some of it over on SoundCloud, right? You can check that link over in the comments and on the screen, as well as at Nico Action everywhere online. That's NICOACTION. And until next time, 3 things. Number 1, stay safe. It's a crazy world. Number 2, you got to be brave. I know it's scary, but you got to try. And number 3, got to evolve daily, right? If you can do those 3 things, kind of sounds like you're a superhero to me, right? And be your own hero any which way you can. And until then, next time we will. Tasty Cake, thank you for being
love you, Tom.
super fan extraordinaire, right? We are always so grateful. And until next time, we'll see you.
Goodbye.